Hi friends. Um, I wish that I could see all your faces in front of me. I'm sad that I can't, but I'm grateful for this opportunity that as teachers we're creating to be able to come to you in your homes and to stay connected in our learning communities. Right before we left school, and not knowing that we were going to need to do that, my classroom started enjoying this book called The One and Only Ivan. You might have heard of it. You might have read it before yourself. And I just didn't want to let that go. I wanted to be able to have that experience with my students. And then when Miss Daniels found out and Miss Jarrow found out and Miss LaFleur found out, they said, let's read it for everybody. So part of what we're doing to stay connected is I'm going to be reading about 10 or 15 minutes each day out of this book. The reason why I love this book is that the characters are so deep and interesting. They have very rich internal lives. They think a lot and they feel a lot. And this story helps us to think more about our own human experience as well. It's about a silverback gorilla named Ivan, and he does not live in the wild anymore. He lives in a roadside zoo with not very much space. And then there are some other sub-characters that are his friends in the story, and it's all about his perspective and their perspective on what it's like to live in a place like that. So you're welcome to join me on this learning journey. We are still a learning community, and I'm thrilled about that. If you have this book, great, get it out. You can follow along. If you don't, there may be some opportunities for you to find it online and follow along. If you have a different tablet or a different technology or way that you could do that while you're listening to me read, go ahead and do that. I encourage that, of course. As we go, I'll probably stop and talk about things that are coming up in the story and maybe ask you some questions and give you some opportunities to reflect on some things. You will notice starting next week when we get rolling with our official learning on the Chromebooks, you will notice on the landing page that there's a spot for you to go to a response journal for The One and Only Ivan. And that is an online journal in a document where you can add your own responses, questions, thoughts about the story. All right, here we go. Oh, I should tell you, my dog might walk by. Don't be alarmed if she does. We'll just welcome her into the video. The One and Only Ivan is by Catherine Applegate. It has won the Newbery Medal. The Newbery Medal is a medal that's given to chapter books for high achievement, meaning a whole bunch of people thought that this book was a really special book, so they awarded it a medal. Yes, The One and Only Ivan. It starts, instead of with a dedication, it starts with a quote. It says, "It is never too late to be what you might have been." It's never too late to be what you might have been. I like thinking about that. Feels really hopeful. So you know that a glossary is a text feature that we usually find only in nonfiction books. And but this time, the glossary is in the front, and it's a fiction book. So there are some words that Ivan uses, some phrases that are helpful to know about. So I thought I would share those with you first. So this is the glossary. It says that a chest beat means repeated slapping of the chest with one or both hands in order to generate a loud sound, sometimes used by gorillas as a threat display to intimidate an opponent. A domain is a territory. A grunt is a snorting pig-like sound made by gorilla parents to express annoyance. Oh boy, this one's kind of funny. It's called a me ball, which is dried excrement thrown at observers. 9,855 days. While gorillas in the wild typically gauge the passing of time based on seasons or food availability, Ivan has adopted a tally of days. 9,855 days is equal to 20 7 years. Not Tag is a stuffed toy gorilla. Silverback, also less frequently called a gray boss. Sorry, I've got a hair on my, an adult male over 12 years with an area of silver hair on his back. The silverback is a figure of authority, responsible for protecting his family. This one I think is kind of funny. A slimy chimp. Any guesses? A slimy chimp is slang, and it's offensive. It's meant to be offensive. And it refers to a human. And he calls us slimy chimps because we sweat on hairless skin. So that's kind of funny. And then it says vining is casual play, a reference to vine swinging. Now, one thing that's interesting about this book is that it has sometimes very short chapters that might not even be a page long. So it goes pretty fast through some different scenes, and it's organized a little bit differently, which is a cool thing about author's choice. You know, authors can kind of decide how they want their chapters to be organized. So I'll say the name of the chapter and then I'll read it, and then you'll be able to tell, I think, with the tone of my voice that I'm changing chapters. So the first chapter is called Hello. I am Ivan. I am a gorilla. It's not as easy as it looks. There's a picture of Ivan. Names. People call me the freeway gorilla, the ape at exit 8, the one and only Ivan, mighty silverback. The names are mine, but they're not me. I am Ivan, just Ivan, only Ivan. Humans waste words. They toss them like banana peels and leave them out to rot. Everyone knows the peels are the best part. I suppose you think that gorillas can't understand you. Of course, you probably think we can't walk upright. Try knuckle walking for an hour. You tell me, which is way more fun. Patience. I've learned to understand human words over the years, but understanding human speech is not the same thing as understanding humans. Humans speak too much. They chatter like chimps, crowding the world with their noise, even when they have nothing to say. It took me some time to recognize all those human sounds, to weave words into things, but I was patient. Patient is a useful way to be when you're an ape. Gorillas are as patient as stones. Humans, not so much. I bet those of you who have already studied about what similes are recognize that sentence as a simile. Gorillas are as patient as stones. So when an author uses like or as to compare two things, saying that they're similar, that's called a simile. Stones are pretty patient, so that's a pretty accurate simile, I would say. How I look. I used to be a wild gorilla, and I still look the part. I have a gorilla's shy gaze, a gorilla's shy smile. I wear a snowy saddle of fur, the uniform of a silverback. When the sun warms my back, I cast a gorilla's majestic shadow. In my size, humans see a test of themselves. They hear fighting words on the wind, when all I'm thinking about is how the late day sun reminds me of a ripe nectarine. The late day sun reminds me of a ripe nectarine. I'm mightier than any human, 400 pounds of pure power. My body looks made for battle. My arms outstretched span taller than the tallest human. My family tree spreads wide as well. I am a great ape, and you are a great ape. And so are the chimpanzees and the orangutans and the bonobos. All of us, distant and distrustful cousins. Those of you who know about prefixes and suffixes can put together that word, distrustful. All of us, distant and distrustful cousins. I know this is troubling. I too find it hard to believe there is some connection across time and space linking me to a race of ill-mannered clowns. Chimps. There's no excuse for them. The Exit 8 Big Top Mall and Video Arcade. I live in a human habitat called the Exit 8 Big Top Mall and Video Arcade. We are conveniently located off I-95 with shows at 2, 4, and 7, 365 days a year. Max says that when he answers the trilling telephone. Mac works here at the mall. He is the boss. I work here too. I'm the gorilla. At the Big Top Mall, a creaky music carousel spins all day, and monkeys and parrots live amid the merchants. In the middle of the mall is a ring with benches where humans can sit on their rumps while they eat soft pretzels. The floor is covered with sawdust made of dead trees. My domain is at one end of the ring. I live here because I am too much gorilla and not enough human. Stella's domain is next to mine. Stella is an elephant. She and Bob, who is a dog, are my dearest friends. At present, I do not have any gorilla friends. My domain is made of thick glass and rusty metal and rough cement. Stella's domain is made of metal bars. The sun bear's domain is wood. The parrot's domain is wire mesh. 3 of my walls are glass. One of them is cracked, and a small piece about the size of my hand is missing from the bottom corner. I made the hole with a baseball bat Mac gave me for my 6th birthday. After that, he took the bat away, but he let me keep the baseball that came with it. A jungle scene is painted on one end of my domain walls. It has a waterfall without water, and flowers without scent, and trees without roots. I didn't paint it, but I enjoy the way that the shapes flow across my wall, even if it isn't much of a jungle. I'm lucky my domain has 3 windowed walls. I can see the whole mall and a little bit of the world beyond. The frantic pinball machines, the pink billows of cotton candy, the vast, treeless parking lot. Beyond the lot is a freeway where cars stampede without end. A giant sign on its edge beckons them to stop and rest like gazelles at a watering hole. The sign is faded and the colors are bleeding, but I know what it says. Mac read the words one day out loud. Come to the Exit 8 Big Top Mall and Video Arcade, home of the one and only Ivan, mighty Silverback. Sadly, I cannot read. Although I wish I could, reading stories would make a fine way to fill up my empty hours. Once, however, I was able to enjoy a book that was left in my domain by one of my keepers. It tasted like termite. The freeway billboard has a drawing of Mac in his clown clothes and Stella on her hind legs and an angry animal with fierce eyes and unkempt hair. That animal is supposed to be me, but the artist made a mistake. I am never angry. Look at the picture. Anger is precious. A silverback uses anger to maintain order and warn his troop of danger. When my father beat his chest, it was to say, beware, listen, I'm in charge. I am angry to protect you because that's what I was born to do. Here in my domain, there's no one to protect. The littlest big top on earth. My neighbors here at the Big Top Mall know many tricks. They're an educated lot, more accomplished than I am. One of my neighbors plays baseball, although she's a chicken. Another drives a fire truck, although he's a rabbit. I used to have a neighbor, a sleek and thoughtful seal, who could balance a ball on her nose from dawn till dusk. Her voice was like a throaty bark of a dog chained outside on a cold night. Children wished upon pennies and tossed them into her plastic pool. They glowed on the bottom like flat copper stones. The seal was hungry one day, or bored, perhaps, so she ate 100 pennies. Mac said she'd be fine. He was mistaken. Mac calls our show the littlest big top on earth. Every day at 2, 4, and 7, humans fan themselves, drink sodas, applaud, babies wail. Mac, dressed like a clown, pedals a tiny bike. A dog named Snickers rides on Stella's back. Stella sits on a stool. It's a very sturdy stool. I don't do any tricks. Max says it's enough for me just to be me. Stella told me that some circuses move from town to town, and they have humans who dangle on ropes, twining from the tops of the tents. They have grumbling lions with gleaming teeth and a snaking line of elephants, each clutching the limp tail in front of her. The elephants look far off into the distance, so they won't see the humans who want to see them. Our circus doesn't migrate. We sit where we are, like an old beast, too tired to push on. After our show, humans forage through the stores. A store is where humans buy things they need to survive. At the Big Top Mall, some stores sell new things like balloons and t-shirts and caps to cover the gleaming heads of humans. Some stores sell old things, things that smell dusty and damp and long and forgotten. All day, I watch humans scurry from store to store. They pass their green paper, dry as old leaves and smelling of 1,000 hands, back and forth and back again. I want to read that again. That's Ivan's description of you know what. I bet you can guess. Let me read that paragraph again. All day, I watch humans scurry from store to store. They pass their green paper, dry as old leaves and smelling of 1,000 hands, back and forth and back again. They hunt frantically, stalking, pushing, grumbling. Then they leave, clutching bags filled with things, bright things, soft things, big things. But no matter how full the bags, they always come back for more. Humans are clever indeed. They spin pink clouds that you can eat. What's that, everyone? Yep, you guessed it, cotton candy. They build domains with flat waterfalls, but they are lousy hunters. Gone. Some animals live privately, unwatched, but that is not my life. My life is flashing lights and pointing fingers and uninvited visitors. Inches away, humans flatten their little hands against the wall of glass that separates us. The glass says, you are this, and we are that, and that is how it will always be. Humans leave their fingerprints behind, sticky with candy, slick with sweat. Each night, a weary man comes to wipe them away. Sometimes I press my nose against the glass. My nose print, like your fingerprint, is the first and last and only one. The man wipes the glass, and then I am gone. Artists. Here in my domain, I do not have much to do. You can only throw so many me balls at humans before you get bored. Remember what a me ball is? A me ball is made by me rolling up dung until it's the size of a small apple and then letting it dry. I always keep a few on hand. For some reason, my visitors never seem to carry any. In my domain, I have a tire swing, a baseball, a tiny plastic pool filled with dirty water, and even an old TV. I have a stuffed toy gorilla, too. Julia, the daughter of the weary man who cleans the mall each night, gave it to me. The gorilla has empty eyes and floppy limbs, but I sleep with it every night. I call it Not Tag. Tag was my twin sister's name. Julia is 10 years old. She has hair like black glass and a wide half-moon smile. Did you hear that simile? She has hair like black glass. She and I have a lot in common. We're both great apes, and we are both artists. It was Julia who gave me my first crayon, a stubby blue one slipped through the broken spot in my glass along with a folded piece of paper. I knew just what to do with it. I'd watched Julia draw. When I dragged the crayon across the paper, it left a trail in its wake, like a slithering blue snake. Julia's drawings were wild with color and movement. She draws things that aren't real, clouds that smile and cars that swim. She draws until her crayons break and her paper rips. Her pictures are like pieces of a dream. I can't draw dreamy pictures. I never remember my dreams, although sometimes awaken with my fists clenched and my heart hammering. My drawings seem pale and timid next to Julia's. She draws the ideas into her head. I draw the things in my cage, simple items that fill my days. An apple core, a banana peel, a candy wrapper. I often eat my subjects before I draw them. But even though I draw the same things over and over again, I never get bored with my art. When I'm drawing, that's all I think about. I don't think about where I am, about yesterday or tomorrow. I just move my crayons across the paper. I'm betting that many of you have had that same experience of being able to get lost in artwork, kind of go to a different place, kind of just become part of the creative process. You can probably relate to what Ivan's saying there. Humans don't always seem to recognize what I've drawn. They squint and they cock their heads and they murmur. I'll draw a banana, a perfectly lovely banana, and they'll say, "It's a yellow airplane," or "It's a duck without wings." That's all right. I'm not drawing for them. I'm drawing for me. Max soon realized that the people will pay for a little picture made by a gorilla, even if they don't know what it is. Now I draw every day. My work sells for $20 a piece, $25 with a frame, and at the gift shop near my domain. If I get tired and need a break, I eat my crayons. All right, friends, I'm going to stop there. We are stopping on page 18. We're going to start again on page 19 in the next video. This would be a great time to stop and think about what your responses are to Catherine Applegate's style, or the similes that you heard, or maybe what are you thinking so far about what we know about Ivan, the main character. And I'll be back in the next round.